Maybe AC, turn this off. Let me thank all of you for being here today. Thank you very much for joining us on this occasion. I know it's beyond 10:30, but we were given a couple of minutes to the legislators who got rushed to the basement of the Capitol to make sure that if the tornado were to come through, they would not be decapitated. And so they have arrived, and thank you all so much for joining me on this occasion. Now, as many of you know, I was born and raised in a parsonage, and I try very hard throughout all of my efforts and endeavors not to get too far away from that training. So I want to welcome my bishop here today, and I'm going to ask him if he would give us a short AME invocation as we embark upon this occasion.
Gracious Father, we thank you for the blessed privilege of this day. We thank you for your favor. We thank you, God, for all of the things that are shown to us that reveals each and every day your love for us. One of those acts of your very special kindness are the people that you put in leadership that are adorned and ordained by you to care for the least of them. Thank you for Jim Clyburn and for what he and who he represents. Bless him now in his pursuit to continue to serve the people whom you've called him to serve. This we pray in your name. Amen.
Amen.
That was short.
Thank you for an Amy. That is true. Thank you very, very much. In a few minutes, I'm going to sign the paperwork that's necessary in order to qualify for the Democratic nomination to run again for the House of Representatives. Now that satisfies the federal requirements. In order to satisfy the state party's requirements, I'm now going to present the check, the filing fee to my district director, Robert Nance. As you know, Monday is a legislative day, and I will be returning to Washington on Monday, but the rules allow for an agent to file the paperwork and pay the check, and Robert will be there when filing opens 9 o'clock on Monday morning to finalize what we are beginning here today. I have served in public life all of my life. When I graduated from South Carolina State back in December 1961, I went off to Charleston, where I became a public school teacher, teaching history to students on the east side of Charleston. Now, the east side was rather unique. It was the most densely populated area in the state of South Carolina. The students there were not expected to be as successful as the students on the other side of town, the west side of Charleston, where my late wife was the librarian. But I used to say to Emily all the time that there was something about those students that I thought, if given the opportunity, they would succeed far beyond expectations. And I took it upon myself to change the method by which they were taught. And I began to teach history to those young people from the evening news and the morning newspapers, using the textbook that the state had given me as a reference book. And I saw how those students reacted to history when they could feel that it was an integral part of their lives. And that is the way that I'm trying to carry out all of my public service, to identify the dreams and the aspirations of people that I serve, and to use that knowledge to fashion my service in such a way that I can help them unleash that which allows them to dream about their futures, and then do what I can to assist them in the implementation of those processes that will lead to that. And so I developed along the way what I call my mantra for public service. And I've asked those daughters of mine to please put on my tombstone, when I take my place alongside their mother, these words: "He did his darndest." That's a cleaner word than I asked him. "To make America's greatness accessible and affordable for all its citizens." They've promised me that they'll clean the language up, but they are going to put that on my tombstone, because that, to me, is what public service is about. We know what the basics are. People need to have food and shelter, and I'm guided in that. Not so much about what we do for the least of these, as the bishop just intoned, as Matthew has there in chapter 25. But as you can imagine, my favorite book of the Bible is the book of James. Not so much because of my name, but it's such a short book of the Bible, you can read those 5 chapters in one setting and think you've done something. But I have adopted that as my favorite book of the Bible because James, who was Jesus' brother, sat down about 44 years after Christ had ascended, and he wrote some instructions for the people of faith to follow. And he writes there in the 2nd chapter that faith without works is dead. And so I have faith in this great country of ours. I maintain hope for the future of this country. But as you know, hope, faith, are defined for us the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen. And so those of us who serve in public life, it is incumbent upon us to use the resources that are there, use the policies, and develop the policies that are necessary to move an agenda forward so that not just this country will succeed, but all of its citizenry will benefit from that success. And so today, I'm going to answer a question that is always asked. What is there unfinished, or what more you need to do? Well, it's in the preamble of our Constitution. We exist in pursuit of a more perfect union. There's nobody here today who thinks that this country is perfect. It is not a perfect country. But I don't think there's anybody here today who believes that we should give up on that pursuit of perfection. And I'm here today to say I do believe that I'm very well equipped and healthy enough to move into the next term, trying to do the things that are necessary to continue that pursuit of perfection. And so I will run a very vigorous campaign, one about as vigorous as my last week has been. I left here on Saturday night, and I flew to Selma, Alabama. Well, we flew to Montgomery and went by car over to Selma to take part in the annual celebration of that great 1965 walk across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Went to church services, breakfast, prayer breakfast, spoke at both events, spent some time with Bishop McAllister, who is a native of Florence, South Carolina. And then I went off to Chicago. And there I participated in 3 book events on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Spoke to 2 high schools, Leo High School in Chicago and Evanston Township High School, the biggest high school in the country, 3,600 students. And sat down with student leaders at both schools and got back here last night trying to run away from a tornado, and it seemed as if I ran into one. But before I left on Saturday to take that trek, I played 18 holes of golf before leaving. And so my health has been good. I know that in a few months I'm going to celebrate the 47th anniversary of my 39th birthday. Adds up to 86 years. But if I were not up to it, I would not do it. But in response, I do some extensive surveying, some intense consultations with my 3 daughters. They finally got to a unanimous opinion that I should be here today and make this announcement, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have. Yes.
Congressman, if you're elected to this next term and Democrats take the House majority in the midterms, can you speak a little bit about what kind of opportunity that would offer you to mentor a possible Speaker Jeffries?
Well, I had a long talk with Speaker Jeffries on yesterday morning before I left Chicago, before I left my motel room to go to the student body. I spoke with him. In fact, I was at the school when I talked to him. And he was among those who asked me to stay. He did not know or had not been informed of what my decision was going to be. And he expressed an interest in my being a part of his leadership if we were to take the House back. It made me feel necessary. And so I do feel that the kind of leadership that I've demonstrated, just in the most recent. You know, I'm the ranking member on the Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development Subcommittee of the Appropriations Committee. And if we were to take the House back, I will be the chair of that subcommittee. And I don't know of anybody here who does not feel that chairing the committee in charge of transportation, the committee in charge of housing and urban development would not be an important thing to do.
South Carolina's gas, I'm sorry, where are you going?
I was just about to say, and I'll conclude with this, if you were to look, my staff has put out this list of the investments that we were able to get in this year's appropriations bill as the ranking member, $227 million. That ain't chump change.
South Carolina's gas average has jumped more than $0.50 since the war with Iran. What specific actions do you believe the administration needs to take right now to lower costs for families?
Well, I'm not in the business of advising this administration on anything. And I'm not sure that this administration is capable of accepting any kinds of recommendations. So I won't recommend anything to them. I would recommend to the voting public that elections have consequences. And we had an opportunity last election to course correct. And we will get another opportunity in this upcoming election to course erect. And my advice would be to consider where we are as a country, consider where we are as a people. You know, I don't want to be too preachy here, and the bishop, I'm not looking for an assignment. But I often think about Alexis de Tocqueville's notion about what makes this country great. De Tocqueville, it is said, came to this country to study our penal system. And while here, it is said that de Tocqueville saw something magical about this country. And he sought to find the source of that magic. And went all around the country looking for the magic. They said that he went onto the campuses of our colleges and universities looking for the magic, and he couldn't find it. He then went into the halls of our legislatures, state and local, as well as the Congress, looking for the magic, and they couldn't find it. De Tocqueville said that it was not until he went into our places of worship that he found what made this country great. And he came to the conclusion that America is great because its people are good. And if the people of America ever cease to be good, America will cease to be great. I feel that strongly. And what I would recommend to this administration is develop policies and procedures that will demonstrate the goodness of the American people. And I think that this administration will allow that to be the foundation upon which to build. Their policies and their procedures will be much, much different from what they are today. And whether or not they have the capacity for goodness, I don't know. But I do believe that that capacity rests in the American people.
Could you expound a little more on how you would course correct if you were elected on the conflict in Iran?
When it comes to conflict in Iran, you know, we do not run the House of Democrats do not run the House of Representatives. And the Congress makes declarations of war. We do not hold the presidency this president is ignoring the constitutional mandates when it comes to war. And he is declaring war under another name. And I don't care if somebody tells you they can do something about that, they're just lying to you. And so don't need me to stand here and tell you, I'm going to do this to correct what's going on in Iran. I'm not. I can't. I'm going to do everything that is in my power to articulate alternatives. And the first thing I would say to this president, come to the Congress, lay your proposals before the House of Representatives, and let us have legitimate debate on behalf of the American people, vote in the Congress, and you adhere to the willingness as expressed by the people who represent the American people. That's the first thing that the president needs to do, bring his proposals to the House of Representatives and have it debated on behalf of the American people. That's what I would do if I were in his place.
Congressman, you said that while mentoring Speaker Jeffries, he encouraged you to stay. You obviously put a lot of thought into this. You had a conversation with your daughters. You said you surveyed everything. Can you go into more detail about your decision to run for re-election and just how important it is to you? You talked about the schools and making change when people see.
Well, I'm a human being, and as all human beings, you tend to pay attention to what is written, to what is said, and you'll be less than human not to be impacted by all of this. And so all of the clamor about the change in leadership, of course, I stepped down from leadership positions. As many of you know, I was in Congress. I had not been even sworn into Congress before I was elected to a leadership position. I became president of my freshman class. It was the largest freshman class since World War II. I chaired the second session of the 103rd Congress. I have been chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, chair of the entire Democratic Caucus, majority whip of the House of Representatives, and assistant Democratic leader. I've gone through all of those. Those are positions that were awarded me by the Congress. And so, when all of this was written, Pelosi and Hoyer gave up their leadership positions, and I gave mine up. Now, when I started discussing this with Mignon, Jennifer, and Angela, and I asked them, what is being said among the people that you all interact with every day? And they made it very clear to me that people felt invested in me. They had voted for me, and I should not be listening to the Washington pundits when it comes to this office. And I wasn't really all that satisfied with that. And I authorized a pretty extensive poll to be done. That poll came out of the field about 6 weeks ago. And I've been sitting on the results all of this time, which I shared with all three daughters. And it was a remarkable approval on behalf of the people in the 6th Congressional District. And when they got to the point, the three daughters, the vote among the three was 2-1 that I should remain. And the one who was a bit reticent was the one who got absolutely no interest in ever running for office. Her interest was in her daddy and what she thought I might be subjected to. So when Mignon finally decided that she could live with it, I'm here. And so we went through that process. And as one lady said to me, an elderly lady, who said to me, we don't listen to them people up there. And you should not. You should listen to the people down here. And we don't want you to leave. And so I'm responding to the people down here.
Congressman, several states have redrawn congressional maps in recent months. There's been a push by the GOP in this state to redraw the maps here, especially your district. Your response to that, any concern that might make the seat go red in the future or soon?
Look, I have a lot to say about that. Monday night, we had a book event. I'm looking back for the book. It just ain't the book event today. As you know, I just finished writing a book called The First Eight. This book is about the 8 African Americans who served in Congress from South Carolina before me. The problem that I address in this book is not the 8 people in their service, but what happened to their service and to them and to South Carolina that led to the fact that there are 95 years between number 8 and yours truly, number 9. And what led to that 95 years? What led to that 95-year gap is exactly what is being proposed by this White House and what a few legislators here were responding to. And that is to completely turn over the government to a one-party rule. And that, to me, is why I wrote this book. Because I wanted people to know that all of this that's going on, that started with the 2020 elections, or the results of the 2020 elections, is not new. It's happened before. South Carolina, in the 1870s, had 5 congresspeople representing it. 4 of them were African American. And because of these laws of the Supreme Court going wild, reinterpreting what the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were all about, that freed the enslaved, they gave due process and equal protection to those who have been formerly enslaved, and the 15th to give them the right to vote. The Supreme Court start reinterpreting what that meant. That's what this current Supreme Court is doing, reinterpreting the 1964 Civil Rights Act, the 1965 Voting Rights Act, and we are now waiting with bated breath to see exactly what they're going to do with the rest of that act as they address Section 2. And so when these folks responded, cooler heads here in the legislature, and including and the governor, made it very clear that they were a bit reticent about all of that. And I think these legislators will tell you, several legislators are here, the chair of the Legislative Black Caucus is here. They will tell you there was no strong feelings in the legislature to do that, because most of the legislators in South Carolina are fair-minded people, and they did not want to see this country go back to what it was, because over time we went from those 4 out of 5, we finally grew in the 1890s to 7 members, and then we had only 1 person of color until 1897, and after that, none because of that. And I don't think anybody wants to go through that again. I shouldn't say anybody. Most people do not want to go through that again. And so I do believe, and I thank those legislators who were here, who carried that message, I thought, very effectively, and who held their power And sometimes the most effective voice is silence.
Congressman Clyburn, Robert O'Brien from Channel 2 down in Charleston.
Yes, sir.
Mayor Cogswell just went up to D.C. on Tuesday to appeal to HUD to cut out the red tape, getting some funding for housing down there. It's $100,000 is what you need for a salary to live in Charleston. Can you give Mayor Cogswell and every cop, nurse, restaurant worker, tourism worker a pep talk, help some way? We're going to get some housing down there that they can afford to live there without having to drive in from Columbia?
I'm on my way to Charleston tomorrow. I will be in Charleston for the next 3 days. I'll be glad to sit down with Mayor Cogswell and tell him why it is he should be endorsing my reelection.
Congressman,
Yes, sir.
I know 2 years is a long time. Obviously, you're announcing for re-election today, but in talking about your decision to run, you mentioned a number of factors that ultimately pushed you to that decision. And I was just curious, once the work is done, do you anticipate this to be your last run for re-election, or is that still an open question for 2 years from now?
Well, it's always an open question, but I love reading, I love writing, and I love playing golf. And those three things could occupy a lot of time. And I'm looking forward to the day that I can spend more time reading, writing, and playing golf. And so this could very well be my last term, and it could very well not be. We'll just see how things go. I don't have any interest in doing anything but what I can to do what's best for South Carolina, do what's best for this country. You know, South Carolina has two mottos. Most people don't realize that. We all quote that motto that's kind of popular, and you see it on the seal of the state: while I breathe, I hope. But there's a second motto that this state has had that's not recited very much, and it is prepared in mind and resources. I spend a lot of my time on that second motto, doing what I can to get South Carolinians prepared in mind and resources. And so that's what I'm going to be doing for the next 2 years, and I'll see what happens at that time. But really, I do have a fourth book it's about 60% done, because I had started out writing this book, which is my third, in a different way than it's turned out. Because of the 2020 election aftermath, I changed the direction of the book. So all the stuff that I had done up to that, it is sitting there in my files, waiting on me to get back to them and make a fourth book out of it. And I would not be against spending 100% of my time working on that book.
What is it going to take to get the government fully open?
Well, I'll tell you what it should take. I don't know what it's going to take, because I really believe that the House of Representatives is suffering today from a lack of leadership. I've been there now over 30 years, and only about a third of that time, maybe a little over a third of that time, have we been in the majority. If you compare Nancy Pelosi's speakership to the current speaker's speakership, you get night and day. Night and day. This is the most ineffective administration of the House that I've ever seen. And it's so easy. We know what the issues are. No one's got a problem with FEMA. we know that we need FEMA. The problem is with ICE. The problem is how we are conducting our border protection. And we ought to have good, informed debate on those things. And that's what this is all about. In order to protect ICE, they are refusing to separate that discussion from the rest of the Homeland Security debate. And so that is as clear. And the Speaker, with one short sentence, can pull ICE and the border out of Homeland Security, and we'll be going forward voting on Homeland Security and have a genuine debate on ICE. That is why, you know, a lot of people are going to say, Jim Clyburn, what are you doing? You may recall, when this bill, the appropriations bill, was voted on, only 21 Democrats voted on that bill. I was one of the 21. And I was asked, why? That's why. Because it allowed us to fund the 11 sections of the law and fund the 12th section, where Homeland Security is, for 10 days. It was effectively 10 days. It said 2 weeks, but you look at legislative days, for 10 days to give us an opportunity to focus on that debate about that and not have people worrying about whether or not the other parts of that bill that run the rest of the government will be held at bay. And I can tell you, it's not convenient trying to get through airports today. I just told you, I just came in from Chicago last night, and the line was long. I went to the airport 3 hours early in order to get here. So we need to do that. And if this speaker were an effective speaker, it's what would happen. Easy. Take the ICE account out of the bill. Let's debate it over here. Go forward so the Coast Guard, so that FEMA, so that all those other entities, the TSA, can go about helping protect the American people while we argue over whether or not ICE ought to be masked. And I have a real problem with that. I grew up in the 40s, and I can tell you what masked men meant to us over in Sumter growing up in the 1940s. Yes, sir.
Congressman Nick Madigan with the New York Times. How do you see yourself in the coming term helping to change the tenor of politics? There are a lot of polls that show that people are increasingly disenchanted with politics in general, politicians, Washington, and it just seems to all be going downhill, in the view of many. So how could you contribute to helping to change that, especially under this administration?
Well, my dad, by the way, my father grew up over in Kershaw County. He grew up at a time when the Kershaw County did allow the education of blacks beyond the 7th grade. When a black person got to the 7th grade, that's all the education they got in Kershaw County. That may sound strange to you, but that was my dad's. Yes. But my dad used to say to me all the time, son, you show leadership by precept and example. Now, we hear a lot of precepts floating around Washington. My biggest contribution to that will be by example. That's why you don't see me cursing people out. You don't see me using profanity in public. You don't see me calling people by their names. I try to demonstrate in my service how I would like to see us react to each other. I don't have I don't know of a thing politically that I agree with the governor on. You have never seen anything but the epitome of respect when you hear me address the governor, and you've seen me stand in press conferences with him. We've worked closely together on how to build broadband out in this country, in this state, 100%. We stand together in what is best for the state of South Carolina. I do not think you have to be nasty, that you have to be violent in order to demonstrate leadership. At every Congressional Black Caucus meeting, they have a little section. We go through the agenda, and on the agenda, just before we depart for meetings, they have something they call Clyburn's Corner, and at which time the caucus usually come to me for some kernel of leadership. And I say to them often, be very careful with your social media, because so many people count their success by how many hits they get on the media. And I've said to them, and I will say to young people all the time, I said this to high school students on yesterday morning, the people that you are counting may not be following you, they may be trolling you. There's a big difference in following and trolling, but the hit's the same. And so I'm going to lead it by precept and example. I cannot make anybody do anything, but I think that it's my responsibility to be an example. And so that's all I'm going to try to do. I talk, but I'm going to walk the walk.
Congressman, can I ask you about 2028 and your influence when it comes to presidential primary politics, especially in South Carolina? Obviously, it's right around the corner. It's still TBD on where South Carolina will be on the nominating calendar. But how much of that potential influence that you have, we know how influential you were in 2020, how much of that really drove your decision to run to be a factor in 2028?
None of it. 2028 had absolutely nothing to do with the decision I make here today. 2026 had everything to do with today. And I mean that very sincerely, because I can tell you, I've been around this business long enough to know that 2 years in the world of politics, 2 lifetimes. And so I'm not going to think about 2028 until we get 2026 done. And I'm not just saying this. I study history every day. You know, these 8 people I wrote about, a lot of people hearing about them for the first time. I've known about these issues. That dad of mine who was not allowed in education made us do a current event with him every night before we went to bed. When we finished our homework, we had to sit down with him and share with him a current event. I'm talking when I was 8, 9, and 10 years old. And he made me learn about Robert Smalls before I ever got to middle school. My mother made me learn about Mary McLeod Bethune when I was in elementary school. And so these things were important to me, but they are important in their place. We got a governorship going on here, right? You've got a candidate over here. Well, I ain't making no announcement, but I hear that there's somebody over here who's running for governor. We will have. I'm focused this year on state legislative seats. I'm focused on constitutional officers. I'm focused on the governorship. And once we get this behind us, I'll start thinking about 2028. But quite frankly, I am not focused on 2028 now. I love this state. I really love this state. My parents love this state. And the state did not always love them. But they never gave up on the state. And my mother told me, I guess I was about 13 or 14 years old when a lady told me, a lady asked me in my mother's beauty shop what I wanted to be when I grow up. And I wrote about this in my second book. And I started telling her about my dreams. Because I had gotten smitten with Harry Truman's presidency and how this guy pulled off a win the way he did. And I've been studying Truman ever since. And McCullough's book on Truman, which is about that thick, I keep it at my bedside. I keep the Bible there too, Bishop. So I keep these two books at my bedside, and I consult them often. And so I believe very strongly that this state, which I tell all my friends, and some of them get upset with me about it, especially those from Virginia and Massachusetts, that South Carolina is the most, I believe, historic state in our union. No state in the union can point to the changes, to the redirections that South Carolina can point to. You can go all the way back to the Revolutionary War. And you can talk all you want about all these wars, but if you have not taken into consideration what happens at Cowpens, the Battle of Charleston, all during the Revolutionary War, then you don't really know what really changed the direction of the Revolutionary War. I maintain the Battle of Charleston, the Third Battle of Charleston, is what really changed the direction of the war and allow us to be standing here as a free nation. So everybody focus on Fort Sumter and the Civil War. But South Carolina has all of that, and we should be proud of that. We shouldn't try to deny that and pretend it didn't happen. These things happen. And we ought to really protect the state's interest because we have so much to give to the American people. Charleston has become the go-to city as much for its history as it has for anything else. And so I'm going to do what I can to make the state a better place. And those people who seem to want to live in the past, I'm going to be an example for them. But I want some of y'all over in the legislature to check them. Yes, sir.
I want to piggyback off of Nick's question about whether it's, you know, if it's going to be your last term. I know you're going to be making that annual meeting with your, having that annual meeting with your daughters. If and when in the future you decide not to run, what do you think the timing will be on that decision, and how would you make that announcement?
I have no idea. What do I know? Good Lord. I have no idea. Look, let me tell you something with that story that seemed to have everybody running about this. When I was asked about that question the other day about whether or not I was going to run, I said, well, I haven't made up my mind yet. I'm not sure that was all the truth. My daughters hadn't come together yet. And I was asked about successors. I named about 10 people that I thought would be good people. And then the reporter says, how about your daughter? I said, how do you know my daughter? She said, well, I know Mignon very well. I said, well, Mignon is not the daughter that everybody's been talking about. This is a true story. I said, you know Mignon very well? I said, but Mignon is not the daughter other people have been talking to me about. And she said, well, if you don't run, will you support your daughter? I said, what kind of father would I be if I had a daughter to run for office and I'm not supporting them? That was the extent of the conversation. And if you read the story, that's what the story said. Whoever wrote the headline put that other foolishness on it. That's not in the story. That was the headline. Now, I used to be in the business, y'all. I used to be in the newspaper business. So I know the difference in who writes the story and who writes the headline. So the person who wrote the headline did not follow the story. And that's all I said. And I'd like to ask you, what kind of father would I be? That's all of us.
One more question.
Congressman, there are some Democrats that think that the lesson that the party should learn from, there's Democrats who think the lesson the party should learn from 2024 is that Democrats need younger leadership. Do you disagree with that autopsy of 2024? And what would you say to young people that feel like the party isn't learning from 2024?
I don't know what you mean by learning from 2024, but I'm already in this room for the last 13 years. Right in this room for the last 13 years. I have funded something called Clyburn Fellows, where young people from all over the state, 40 to 50 young people, are selected every year. They spend 1 year in that fellowship. Every 3 months they meet right in this room, and occasionally I meet with them. And I would like to say that several of them have now gotten elected to office, and some of them are running campaigns. One of them, where is AC, going to be running my campaign for re-election. Yeah. I believe in developmentship. The first weekend in every August, I invite all my friends and their families to Santee, South Carolina. And we give out 2,000 scholarships to young, how many did I give? I give out 200 a year. We have now gotten, I give out 200 laptops over there, 200 laptops, 200 scholarships. These are high school graduates. We bring them and their families down there, help them prepare them to prepare them in mind and resources. We give each one of them $1,000 each, a laptop, Dell laptop, a Microsoft software package, helping prepare them for the future. Now, the bishop will tell you that the Bible says that the young are called because of their strength, the older because of their knowledge. For there to be success, there should be an adequate balance of both. And that, to me, is what is successful. So I'll close with this, since this is the last question. I've been asking people, what would you prefer to have? An older Thurgood Marshall or a younger Clarence Thomas? There's more than one place, right? The two? Okay.